Hi, I'm Virgil. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I want to go over a project that we just completed, installed in my new music room. It replaces a cabinet that I bought about 7 years ago through Best Buy from Bello. I took off the front door. There were a couple of covers on the back. They were magnetic, so a lot of airflow and adjustable shelves and the ability to swap out gear, which I love to do, and just change up gear anytime by rotating the cabinet. However, as time has gone on, I've relegated to the back of my music room, put the door back on and the back ends on, and I use it to store all of my jazz albums and some of my CDs as well. Why did I want to build a project? Well, I have a lot of nice vintage gear with beautiful wood cases, like this one. It all started when one day when I gave my neighbor and friend Jarvis a call. Like to meet Jarvis. Asked him about some hardwood suppliers in the Los Angeles area. And through discussion, he became interested in helping out. And he offered the services of himself and his garage and nice wood shop. This was the original sketch of the project. And he came up with some good ideas to extend the top of the legs. Instead of a rabbet joint, use a dado joint. And I believe we brought up the bottom to the bottom shelf. Here's the original side view. And in the next slide, you'll see a little bit of red mark indicating the extension of the top of the legs. So that's what we worked with. And we use it as our kind of blueprint as we move forward and making this exciting project. So I had to acquire some material through research and looking on Home Depot. I ordered 3 butcher block countertops and had them delivered. They were well packaged. Right? Yeah, no, it hasn't been cut. Yeah, this morning down the block with my friend and neighbor Jarvis. I'm Virgil, and we're going to do some cutting today of some butcher blocks that picked up at Home Depot for the audio rack, the double wide audio rack. So we cut one yesterday, and we're going to try to finish on number 2 and number 3 today. So we thought we'd go ahead and open this up so you can get an idea. And maybe we'll learn too the quality of this butcher block. The one we had yesterday was pretty darn good.
It was good.
Yeah,
it was surprisingly, yeah. But it's nice to know they didn't do a lot of laminating.
Yeah,
because that's the killer.
Yeah.
When you're trying to cut something.
I went to another place called Gandal yesterday, and they had some 4-foot butcher blocks, but this is only 109. The ones at Gandal were like 180. Similar in size, but the quality wasn't as good, and the ends were like full of filler, which is not good for us.
Yeah, not yeah. For the finished work we're trying to do.
Yeah. So today we're going to take this 50 down to, what is it, 44 and 3/4. Yeah, and then we have 25. We're going to get it down to 21. So yeah, the good thing is been working with Jarvis and my wife, and get a lot of good dialogue. And Jarvis has helped out a lot in terms of getting my thoughts straight in terms of what to do on the design, as well as the manufacture of this table. And again, I haven't done any woodworking for like 20 years, being a former industrial arts teacher. So it's good to have neighbors with a full shop. Yeah.
Well, I had a manufacturing company building tack trunks for the equestrian field. So
yeah. So Jarvis has got both a metal machining background as well as woodworking, electrical too, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so we got some nice end caps, pretty well protected. I ordered these from Home Depot, and they had free delivery. So, what do you think?
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, looks pretty dang good.
Having seen what the sides look like yesterday,
yeah, and
we look at the ends.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. Looks maybe even better. Yeah. We got our 21-inch width cut done, and so now we're going to go ahead and set up for...
Actually, what we're going to do is, because we've got it...
Yeah? Oh, that's right, we got the other one to do.
So we'll open up the other box.
Okay. And I'm just going to provide a little bit of push down. Well, let's save a little time in the video. Here's a picture of Jarvis looking real happy after completing one of the 4 legs, all made out of African mahogany. And then working later with the countertops, we used 1/4 by 20 threaded inserts from Rockler. And here's an example of one that was countersunk. And then these threaded black connectors. We had to have enough for all 4 legs. And here's a shot of Jarvis putting it together with an Allen wrench. And as we went forward, very accurate work, thanks to Jarvis. And here's a shot or two of the complete assembly. And then we just kind of let her sit for quite a few months. Well, after months and months of delay, I finally got to that point of something you don't really want to do: sanding, staining, and finishing. It's always an issue. So make sure you hang on to the cardboard and end pieces for later use in the finishing process. I did do some sanding. I think I did 100 grit, 120, 180. I think I finished up with 220 grit. Again, I had 3 different panels. I got edges, both sides, and it took quite a long time. After that, I had to decide on some staining and other finishing that I wanted to use. So for the legs, even though I had a African mahogany, I wanted them darker. So I used this. I just bought a pint from Rockler, and it worked out pretty well. And it's a messy process. Make sure you have those rubber gloves. It takes quite a while to do something like that. And then finally, I decided on a satin finish. I had to order this through Amazon since it's not available in California. So I brought in the into my garage all of the different countertops, and I wiped them off. And then I just decided to try the process I learned online, and I'll share that in the comments below. Here are the materials that you need: screwdrivers, a sponge brush, gloves, and things like that. Very, very important. It's pretty easy to do. And I'll show you some others processes down below in the comments. This is what it looked like after the first coat. And I did all 3, obviously, in the garage, one right after the other. And it was recommended to use some like 400 or 500 grit sandpaper to go over it. I just lightly dragged line by line to do this. And you can kind of see what I also did with the legs. Similar process. I put the first coat on, and then I just lightly drag. But this is what it looks like after it's all done. Very, very beautiful. And there's a couple of end pieces I used to support my work in the garage. And throughout the process, adding coats, I went ahead and put the legs up there to see what it's like. Finally, I got to the point where things were ready to assemble after a drying period. Put it up in my living room, my dining room area, and it took maybe an hour. Put some plastic feet on it. Again, I bought those from Rockler. I created a little pattern to use and hammered them in. Pretty cheap. I think they were only like $9 or something like that. And this is where the completed assembly sat for 30 days. And we had Jarvis over for dinner to celebrate. And here's a couple of quick shots that I used. To kill time in the 30-day waiting period, I brought my KEF 104 speakers out into the garage and put on some Howard's Feed and Wax. That worked pretty well. And after 30 days was over, I used some orange polish, polished it all down, rubbed it out, and then a couple hours later, we were ready to rock and roll. And so I got some furniture pads, started moving it, put it down the hallway to my music room, slid it in there, set it up. Looks pretty good, huh? Yeah, yeah. And here's some pieces of equipment that I put on it, and a kind of a short video showing how I went through a process of connecting everything. Again, why did I go ahead and build this rack with Jarvis? Because I want the ability to swap gear out. I have a lot of gear stored throughout the house, and I enjoy these kind of things. This is my Luxman C1000 preamp. I use it for about everything except maybe running the turntables, which I run to a tube preamp. But this gets you an idea what it looks like. And here's my Luxman T110 tuner, just to kind of give you a heads up. Both of these were designed as a kind of a common style, and now I tuned into KUSC FM just to give you a bit of an idea. It's a beautiful tuner. It's a top-of-the-line tuner for Luxman back in its day, and like I say, it's FM only. I do have about 3 or 4 other tuners. In terms of the ease of setup, I have a couple of interconnect cables. I marked one with a T for tuner, another one D for decks, like for cassette decks and things like that. So I could quickly swap stuff out. And this kind of gives you an idea what it looks like. And then we'll kind of swing up and around over this speaker. I move the speaker out of the way, and then you can go down close to the floor, and where I have a APC power conditioner, I've got an open plug right there. So here I'm already doing something, swapping out a 1978 and 79 cassette deck from Pioneer, and do a little sound test. Everything's working. So going for a closer look at some of the gear and how I've got things configured. I recently acquired this Sun Valley. It's actually a phono preamp. It says Sun Valley phono equalizer. And the cool thing about this, it's all tube, and it has a switch for both MM, MC, and you've got some different settings for turnover, roll off, and so forth. But the cool thing, it has 2 inputs. You have a high and low gain, switch for roll off, and you can actually, if you get a mono cartridge. So I've got some, 12AX7s and a 12AU7. I forgot what the heck this is, but it costs a lot of money. And then if you look on the back side of this device, you notice there are like two inputs. So I've got 2 different turntables, and then a single output, and obviously a ground. So I'm going through the process here, and I have a nice, what they call a VPI Scout 1.1, and it's a pretty new turntable. I've had it maybe for 4 or 5 years, and then recently acquired a nice Hana, I believe it's a Umami blue cartridge, kind of an arm and leg kind of cartridge, and that's running to the input 1, and it first goes through Bob's Devices step-up transformer. It's called a Sky 40, so I could use this. I've been using it before with a Dynavector 20x2 low output, and then also, for example, a Denon 103R. I have a couple different switch settings for each of the cartridges. And then the second input is this turntable from the late 70s. It's a Pioneer PL630, fully automatic as compared to the VPI, which is belt-driven and manual. I love this particular table. It's had some technical issues in the past, but I've got them fixed. So what I want to be able to do with this one is play crappier records on this one, and then be able to swap out head shells. I got a bunch of head shells, and then go from like moving magnet, moving iron. Right now I have a high output moving coil Dynavector 10x5. It's one of the first cartridges that I ever purchased. So the swapping area, that involves this turntable. So I do have another one. It's a Technics SL 1800, again from the late 70s, fully manual. And then you saw earlier in the video, a late 70s cassette deck with those blue lights and things like that from Pioneer. And then the preamp. And then what this is a Wilsonton R8. It's actually an integrated amp. It uses KT88 tubes, so I've got some nice gold lines. And then I use some Mullard EL34s. So the big tubes are the amp, and obviously the tubes on the front end is a preamp. And I can go ahead and run the turntable, for example, both turntables to the output, and use the auxiliary one, for example. I do use the, where it says pre-in, when I want to go ahead and put stuff out through the preamp, it goes through there. For example, I have a, used to have a CD, I still have CD players, but this is a Audiolab 6000 CDT. It's a CD transport. That feeds into, for example, I've got a DAC. It's a, what is it, Brooklyn DAC Plus. It's got a lot of capability, a lot of other functions. And then I also have a Blue Sound node I use for streaming. So I do a kind of a digital coaxial cable out of this up to the Brooklyn DAC. And then between these two devices, I have an optical Toslink glass cable running to those. And believe it or not, I'm actually using something called Roon, which I'm kind of using what's called a Mac Mini computer. And it has a Woo Audio headstand, headphone stand on top of it. And what I do with the Mac Mini, the only thing I do it for is running Roon. So I'm able to use a pretty high-end music program. So I can use Tidal, Qobuz, for example. And then on the back side, I have, I think, a 1 terabyte, Samsung solid state drive that I go ahead and rip a lot of my CDs and turn them into FLAC files and so forth. So that's kind of the layout. I want some functionality again. Swapping turntables easy. Swapping stuff down here like cassette decks, a bunch of tuners, things like that. And the beauty too is I have these wonderful 1984 we call KEF 104 speakers. You can see the 2 mid-range and a tweeter. And then if you look down here, there's actually an 8-inch woofer. There's another one inside as well. And then with the actual cover, this is kind of what the KEF 104 looks like. And I did some refinish on those using that Howard's feed and wax. So, and then finally, when I want to use headphones, I can go ahead and use the Brooklyn DAC. So I can use a balanced or just unbalanced headphone jacks. And I have a series, I think 4 or 5 different headphones. I have some Odyssey closeback. They're LCD 2s. And this one just came out earlier this year. It's Maxwell from Odyssey. It's actually wireless gaming, but it has some pretty high-end capabilities. And then later on, I also have another one hidden away, an LCD 10X. So those are some of the things I have. And again, I have a lot of other gear and so forth stored in various rooms. But I've learned so much, spent a lot of money, wasted a lot of money, but it doesn't matter. I've learned so much, and finally got to this day after so many years and coming up on my 9th year of retirement. So I have a real good hobby. It's been a lot of fun.